This is the Jeep Avenger, a front-wheel drive electric B crossover made in Poland, and it's kind of like my watch. Why? Let's find out. Before I explain the watch comparison, briefly about what a Jeep Avenger actually is. First of all, it should not be confused with the Dodge Avenger, a sedan which went out of production some 10 years ago. The Jeep Avenger is a subcompact crossover that shares components with the DS3 Crossback, Fiat 600e, Opel Mokka or Peugeot 2008. But it has nothing in common with the Jeep Renegade, except the brand name, of course. The Jeep Avenger is the smallest of all the models I mentioned. It's closest to the Opel Mokka and the Volkswagen T-Cross. I'm surprised VW is still sitting on the ID Life and ID2 all concept models, which, like the Avenger, are exactly what we need from EVs: compact size and reasonable range in the city. Fun fact, despite the trendy crossover body style, the Avenger is about the size of the Renault Zoe, the Zoe being 3 centimeters higher than the Avenger. But the Renault looks like a regular supermini, so it flies below the radar, while the Avenger has already won several awards, including the European Car of the Year 2023. And that brings me to the watch comparison. This is an Omega Seamaster Aquaterra. In theory, a Seamaster is a so-called diver's watch, but first of all, few people today use diving watches for diving. Secondly, the Aquaterra series is at best a snorkeling watch. And thirdly, more people wear diving watches than actually go diving. Same thing with the Jeep Avenger. You may have a positive association with the Jeep brand, but that doesn't mean you buy a Jeep to drive it off-road. Otherwise, we wouldn't have primarily front-wheel drive Renegade or Compass. So, let's forget the Jeep badge and the Jeep Easter eggs sprinkled all over the car, including the mountain range visible in the rearview mirror, right next to the Fiat sticker. That's because the Avenger is made at the Fiat plant in Tychy, Poland. LOL. Over the past few years, my views on EVs shifted from long-range fetish to a realization that long-range EVs actually don't make much sense. They are big and heavy, and as such, they are rubbish where EVs are needed the most, which is in and around big cities. And on longer road trips, even EVs with big and heavy batteries are less convenient than cars with internal combustion engines. Back in 2013, when BMW launched the i3, the Bavarian product gurus were right in saying that it was a car for what they called the mega city, and that for longer trips it was better to rent a normal car. In any case, in terms of practicality, the Avenger has most of what I would expect from a small urban crossover, and sometimes even more, like the electrically operated tailgate with gesture control. The boot capacity is 355 liters, that's slightly less than in the VW T-Cross and marginally more than in the petrol variant of the Opel Mokka. There is a double floor which can be sort of locked in the raised position. There is still a small storage compartment here between the sill and the traction battery, and you could theoretically fit a charging cable there if you get rid of the emergency triangle, fire extinguisher and the repair kit, which I strongly advise against. Now, the parcel shelf fits between the double floor and the real floor, so if you need to carry something larger, you don't have to worry about it. Now, Jeep does not specify the boot capacity with the seats folded, but several online sources quote 1053 liters, and it looks about right. Rear legroom is tight, but that's to be expected from a small city car. I'm 175 centimeters tall and the driver's seat is set to my driving position. Headroom is not bad. I'm surprised there are no door pockets, especially since there is no armrest with cup holders. There is only a single USB port, no air vents. It's like the designers couldn't decide who is this car for. Because beside the 2 rear ISOFIX anchor points, there's also one on the front passenger seat. Like in the Mokka,
Also here, the door sills are quite high, so your thigh may be hitting the steering wheel when getting in and out. That's why I have to set the steering wheel a bit higher than I'd like.
The seats are average. There is no lumbar support adjustment unless you choose the optional electrically operated seats. Then only the driver gets lumbar support adjustment. The instrument cluster is digital. Now the layout is like in most Peugeot and Citroën and DS models these days, but the graphics are specific to the Jeep Avenger, so they look very adventurous. Some of the physical switchgear, like the indicator and wiper stalks, are clearly from Peugeot and Citroën. The steering wheel is from Fiat, and that's a good thing because all the buttons are on it and you don't get those annoying joysticks like in Citroëns behind the steering wheel. Also from Fiat are the drive selector, reverse drive buttons. I would have preferred a lever or a knob, but this way we get commodious storage down here at the bottom of the console. It contains a wireless charger, USB ports, a 12-volt outlet, and there's plenty of space in there for things like my water bottles, which don't fit in the door pockets because these are tiny. Now, there are some adjustable cup holders here between the seats. Unfortunately, taller bottles will obstruct the armrest, so you have to slide it backwards, but then the target group will not be able to use it, and I'm thinking of petite, middle-aged women. Now, at least the glove box is absolutely massive in the left-hand drive version. And just to be clear, it's not that I'm projecting some archaic gender models here. This is a photo from the Jeep press site.
There is a shelf running across 3/4 of the width of the cockpit. On top trim models like this one, it should have some sort of rubber anti-slip lining, but that disappeared somewhere. There also should be a magnetic cover for the lower center console storage bin, and that too has evaporated in mysterious circumstances. The infotainment system is Peugeot derived, including something called an app drawer. You can configure the contents of the home screen to your taste. Not my cup of tea, but someone must be very proud of it. I'm only interested in wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Navigation is an option even on the top trim, but it's not worth it. At least in Poland, route planning with charging navigates to slow or obscure chargers, so if you want to charge your Avenger on longer road trips, plan your charging stops with a third-party app.
If you're wondering what's the difference between a premium brand and a mass brand, a premium brand hires Hans Zimmer to design the sounds for their electric car, and a mass brand hires a kid with a beatbox. I searched for indicator sound settings, but I couldn't find any, and this is extremely annoying. The collision mitigating system, on the other hand, isn't very urgent, not as urgent as my partner Anna, who's sitting on the right seat here, and the warning comes later than Anna. I guess it's better than the overzealous system on the Fiat 500e, which beeped way too early, way too loud. The front collision warning system with emergency braking is oversensitive, and it cuts in even in its lowest setting when I try to region brake. The system is active every time I start the car. Also, the active lane keeping assist is active every time I start the car, and like the collision warning, it also likes to be overzealous. To a point, it is almost difficult to overcome it. Not a huge deal when you're on a road with lanes marked clearly, and then it keeps you in your lane. However, on roads without clearly marked lanes, it adopts some imaginary lane and pulls me towards the middle of the road for a small overlap crash with oncoming cars. This one is very relaxed, designed for tailgating.
Other driver aids like adaptive cruise control with lane keeping assist are also not class leading. They are okay on motorways, which is probably not where this car will spend most of its life. As the roads get narrower and traffic trickier, you're on your own. Performance. Acceleration from 0 to 100 km/h should take 9 seconds. In normal and sport modes, I achieved 8.9 seconds. Sport mode seems to change the color of the ambient lighting, but I didn't notice a difference in handling. Only Eco mode clearly cuts power and makes the already rather underpowered heater even more useless. And it's not even very cold yet. Speaking of ambient lighting, it's standard on the top equipment version or is available as part of an equipment package on lesser trim. Skip it if you can, because at night it reflects in the side windows right around the wing mirrors. Of course, you can dim the ambient lighting, but then what's the point of having it in the first place?
In addition to normal, eco and sport modes, there are also some off-roady modes that adjust ESP for slippery surfaces, but the Avenger is front-wheel drive only, so don't venture off-road with it. Let's talk about range and charging now, shall we? The Avenger comes with a refreshed version of the PSA's electric powertrain. The new battery has 54 kilowatt-hours gross or 51 kilowatt-hours net. The old one had 50 or 46 kilowatt-hours respectively. Power increased from 136 to 156 horsepower, but torque remained unchanged at 260 newton meters. DC charging is still up to 100 kilowatts. AC charging is now 11 kilowatts as standard. Average energy consumption in my test was about 15 kilowatt hours combined on warm days. So with 51 kilowatt hours, this gives us real world range of about 340 kilometers. That's quite a bit less than the manufacturer's promised 400 kilometers combined, or 550 kilometers around the city. Recuperation, like on the Peugeot E2008, the B mode does very little too. If you want one-pedal driving, this is not the car for you.
Initially, the Avenger was supposed to be electric only, but closer to the launch, Jeep announced a petrol version would also be available in some markets. It's still a 1.2-liter three-banger from Peugeot, and the car is still front-wheel drive. But if you don't want an electric Jeep, you have other options. The petrol variant is a manual, and the gear lever takes up some of the space in this huge cubby at the bottom of the center console. Prices of the Jeep Avenger start at €27,000 for the petrol variant. The EV starts at 37 grand. This is the top trim called Summit, and with options, this car costs around €39,000.
The Jeep Avenger makes a great city runabout or a suburb commuter. It's easy to drive, it's decently soundproofed, the suspension is okay. It's what I expect from an EV. It doesn't bother me, except those horrible blinkers. And who cares it's got a Jeep badge? In traffic, it'll pass for a T-Cross. And how do you like the Jeep Avenger? Let me know in the comment section below.
If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.